I did want to kind of update everybody on what is going on with the injuries at Clemson thus far. Everybody knows fall camp is done as of today. The last scrimmage was yesterday. Dabo Swinney talked to the media. He outlined that we got out of that last scrimmage, the last preseason game, if you will, pretty much unscathed. But he did make mention that we are down 3 people for the season as far as Clemson football goes so far. And that is offensive lineman Watson Young tore his ACL in practice, so he's done for the season.
Or again. Well, I don't know if it's – I don't know because he was already coming off a torn ACL, but I don't know if it's the same one or not.
I don't know if it's the same one, but I think one of the media members asked if it was a setback, and he reiterated that he tore his ACL in practice. So I think it's another ACL tear. I don't know if it's the same knee or if it's the other knee, but unfortunately, it looks like he tore it either again or he tore the other knee. So speedy recovery for Watson Young. Hopefully he can grind it out and make it back for spring ball. Another injury in the defensive back, the cornerback position, Miles Oliver. He's out with an ACL tear as well. And then another offensive lineman, Ian Reed, didn't say whether it was an ACL or not, just specified that it was a knee injury and that he's out for the season. I would assume it's some sort of tear and is going to require surgery if he's for sure shut down for the entire season. So a couple injuries along the offensive line already, an injury at the cornerback position, And we already mentioned the kind of depth issue that we're already dealing with at camp as far as Jaden Lucas and Shelton Lewis being day-to-day. Are those guys going to be back for the Georgia game? Are we going to have to rely on, a Tavoy Fegan or a Ashton Hampton or a Corian Gibson, some of those true freshman guys? That remains to be seen. But everybody outside of those 3 that are out for the season are, according to Dabo Swinney, quote unquote, day-to-day. What that means, he specified to the media that means nothing, basically. It could mean 2 days, it could mean 2 weeks, it could mean a month, but day-to-day. So essentially day-to-day gives us no timeline on any of these individuals that are currently day-to-day. But what are your thoughts on kind of where Clemson is from an injury standpoint? Are you happy with kind of where we've been at as far as camp goes? Obviously transitioning into Georgia prep on Sunday.
Yeah, mostly. I mean, I do have some concerns, but I think you're in a better spot than you were last year for sure. And the fact that you went through this most recent scrimmage without anybody getting hurt is a big deal. And you mentioned the guys that are out for the year. I think the biggest loss is Ian Reed. I think he just is a guy that was going to slot in, especially in your tackle depth. He has repped at guard at times throughout the offseason as well. So he was going to be a guy that was kind of on the higher end as far as who to go to if somebody goes down. That's a little concerning because this is not especially at tackle, this is not an overly deep tackle room right now. And so you want to have that, security a little bit more because you don't really want to be relying on you don't really want to be relying on guys that haven't or that are like true freshmen or guys that have hardly seen the field. So that one hurts a good bit, and Miles Oliver being, a depth piece at corner, that certainly is not great because you're already dealing with 2 corners who are already injured. So it kind of guarantees that, it guarantees that, beyond like Brandon Strozier, you're going to be relying on, true freshmen for depth at corner. So not great for sure. And, Watson Young being a true freshman, you hate that for his development. He was a, late take in this past recruiting cycle. But a guy that they really like, local kid. That's, he wasn't expected to be a contributor obviously this year, but that for his long-term development, you don't want him missing time like this. So speedy recovery to him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, what's your thoughts on, the cornerback position? I know we touched on it a little bit. And, obviously we don't know if Jaden Lucas or Shelton Lewis are going to be healthy for that Georgia game, but assuming one of those guys are, you still need these depth pieces, right? So even though you have, Terrell on the other side, and hopefully you got at least a Jaden Lucas on that side. Who do you think is first to run out there to give these guys a breather? Is that a Brandon Strozier? Is that is that I've heard rumors of Ronan Hannafin doing some cross training over there. Those have been rumors.
He's been repping that linebacker.
Yeah.
They've given him some time. I mean, he played both sides of the ball in high school. I kind of, and I've had some conversations with Clemson. Some of my Clemson buddies, that felt like we should have recruited him at linebacker from the start. Yeah. I can't say I disagree. His linebacker tape was really, really good coming out. Right. I tend to think like seniority, it's not as big of a deal. Like Wes has not been a big seniority guy like Brent Venables was. Like it's like whoever is talented and can play is the most talented is the one that's going to play a lot of the time. But I do think they'll give Brandon Strozier some run because I think that they've been really complimentary of what he's been able to do this offseason. Yeah. So I would lean towards him being the next in line just because Ashton Hampton is a summer enrollee, and but again, we've seen summer enrollees on the offensive side of the ball come in and play, but defensively it can be a little bit more. Sometimes the path to playing time is a little bit different because it does take, especially in Wes's scheme, like that trust you have to develop that trust. Mm-hmm. So as much as great things as we've heard about the true freshman corners, I think Brandon Strozier, at least initially, will be the guy that runs out there. If you can't get, behind Lucas and Lewis, like if neither one of them can go, I think he'd be the guy. That's kind of where I feel right now. But I think, if he comes out and gets toasted, throw Ashton Hampton out there or Corian Gibson or Tavoy Figure, we don't have a sample size of a huge sample size of Brandon Strozier either, so it's not like he has like this rapport that he's built up. He's still a young guy himself.
He made some plays in the spring game.
He looked really good in the spring game.
He looked pretty well in the spring game. I've heard some, him having some pretty big pass breakups in as far as fall camp goes. So it sounds like he's getting better. He's taking that next step. He's trending towards a bit of a better player. So like you, I think he'll probably be the first one to run out there. But again, Ashton Hampton's probably physically the guy that's most ready. From a mental standpoint, who knows? But physically, like
it's a true freshman summer enrollee, 6'2", 6'2", 200 pounds.
Yeah,
that's insane, man.
Just an absolute beast out there. So physically, you would love to see Ashton Hampton get an opportunity as well. But again, you talk about Wes Goodwin's scheme and the trust that it takes in that back end, and is he going to be able to catch up mentally quick enough? Who knows? But unfortunately, we may have to lean on some of these true freshmen at different points in time in the season, especially if we continue to struggle with injury, especially with those top 3 to 4 guys. I mean, you think about Avian Terrell. Hopefully, he stays healthy. Jaden Lucas and Shelton Lewis, those guys have been banged up. You got Brandon Strozier. Hopefully he stays healthy. But after that, you really are probably looking at a lot of these true freshman guys to step in and maybe have to take meaningful snaps at some point in time this season if we can't get healthy and stay healthy in that cornerback position.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, your depth is going to be tested. Like we said, you're not going to have much time to really get right. You're going to, so I think everybody, beyond Terrell and, I think Lewis and Lucas they clearly have separated themselves from the rest of the group. But, obviously them dealing with injuries means that kind of muddies the waters a little bit. But I think you definitely do need to have a very short leash, if you have to rely on some of those younger guys, because you can't afford to have somebody out there and, getting toasted.
And not only that, unfortunately, look at the lineup of quarterbacks you play in the first 5 weeks of the season if you're Clemson. you play a lot of veteran guys.
Yeah, I mean, even App State's quarterback, he had a really nice year last year. I can't think of his name right now.
Isn't he like a third or fourth year guy? I
Yeah,
mean, so I mean that's an experienced quarterback. Obviously, Georgia, second year starter coming back. Obviously, they expect him to take the next step, and then you got
Grayson McCall. Grayson McCall.
You got Grayson McCall. I mean, everybody knows what he is and what kind of baller and playmaker he is at the quarterback position. And then, whatever you think about TJ Uyunglele, I mean, he's
played a lot of ball. Yeah,
a 6-year quarterback at this point.
Yeah.
So I mean, regardless of what you think of him, he does have a lot of experience. And when you're dealing with very young cornerbacks, they're going to tend to make mistakes, and experienced quarterbacks make young cornerbacks pay typically. So you really hope that Clemson can get healthy and stay healthy in that position group and not have to lean on the young guys so much. But again, thankfully for us, if we do, we have some really talented young guys, and hopefully, they'll get baptized by fire, and we'll figure it out. We've been there before, and it's worked out in the past in some senses. So we'll see how it works out this time.
Yeah, but yeah, obviously, ideal scenario, you get Lucas and Lewis. Hopefully at least one of them, but ideally both of them ready to go, and then you feel a little bit better about your rotation, and then you can get your younger guys in spots, and not you don't need them to be big time snaps type players.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll definitely hope for that, but